Good evening, sisters and brothers. As we gather for this moment in the space of worship, this final meal of Jesus in his mortal form, with the people that he had worked with, cared for, lived alongside, performed miracles with, got frustrated with, and loved. I invite you to stay in this moment, not skipping ahead to the end of the week. So often when there is struggle in our lives, we want to skip ahead to the conclusion, to be reassured of the hope. And yes, there is hope coming. But do not skip the times of sorrow and the times of reflection as well. On that night, the disciples and Jesus gathered for what we call the Passover Seder, is what they call as well too. And it's a meal that's designed to retell the story of the Exodus from Egypt out of slavery, with the conclusion of the plagues and the final plague passing over the Jewish people. This time of worship is meant as a heritage story time, a theological exploration, and a faithful reminder of the relentless love of God. Jesus would demonstrate the same when he would transform this Passover Seder from an event designed for a small amount of people to a story of salvation for an entire creation. The balance of sin would be zeroed out, and the call from God through the life and teachings of Jesus would call for all to follow the way of Jesus and to live into the love of God. That is the invitation borne out this night. Tonight, you are invited to see the acts of foot washing, love feast, and communion, not as routines, but as acts, demonstrations of the very active, transformative love of Jesus that has been lived among you and is being lived among you now. May you feel the Holy Spirit working through you tonight and with each breath. With our opening breaths as well, I invite us now to join in singing our opening hymn, which you'll find printed in your bulletin, verses 1 through 3 of Will You Let Me Be Your Servant? My hand out to you, speak you. I invite you now to prepare for the Lord's table by reflecting, by recalling, by examining. Reflect on the transformative reality of that night. The disciples gathered to celebrate a culture-defining moment for them. The Passover. The salvation of their ancestors from the brutal oppression of Egyptian slavery. Their salvation would come not without anxiety, not without worry, not without struggle. Later that night, Jesus will be arrested by the force of the oppressive Roman emperor, and Jesus would also demonstrate to would follow him that life with God is transformative indeed. I would like to invite you now to look at who you are right now. Who were you a year ago? 5 years ago? Where have you been transformed? Recall the times you've been shown grace and mercy, both by God and your sisters and brothers of God. We do not worship a fair God. If we worshiped a fair God, could any of us really stand a chance to experience God's peace? Instead, we've been shown grace and mercy from God, made all the more powerful when we recall those times where we have not felt grace from our sisters and brothers, those times that we have not shown mercy for whatever reason we have done so. Recall that we are here now, not just in this space, but in this world, and for times such as this, because of the grace and the mercy of God, not the anger and the hatred of humanity. Recall how God's grace has shown to you and through you. Examine to be faithful. The difficulty of determining what our actions are and what they should be. The efforts it takes to resist the anger and violence of a culture that we live in that seeks to manipulate the words of God for its own gain. Examine within yourself the daily struggle you have in being a witness of Christ's love. Examine the times in which you are encouraged to hate, to fight, and to dehumanize that which God has created. Reflect, recall, and examine. These steps may have left you assured or unnerved, calmed or disheveled, peaceful or uncertain. Whatever you may be feeling, know that as you have prepared to share in this service tonight, you are welcome here. In all that you are, all that you were, and all that you will ever be, you are welcomed here. You will be loved and are loved by sisters and brothers of the one who created you, sustained you, and redeemed you. Because we have been shown mercy from God. Let us read and hear of what mercy looks like from that night. John chapter 13, verses 1 through 17 of the Common English Bible. Before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his time had come to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them fully. Jesus and his disciples were sharing the evening meal. The devil had already provoked Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So, he got up from that table, took off his robes. Picking up a linen towel, he tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a wash basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that he was wearing. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand what I'm doing now, but you will understand later." No, said Peter. "You will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash your feet, you won't have a place with me." Simon Peter said, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." Jesus responded, "Those who have bathed need only to have their feet washed, because they are completely clean. You disciples are clean, but not every one of you." He knew who would betray him, and that's why he said, "Not every one of you is clean." After he washed the disciples' feet, he put on his robes and returned to the place at the table. He said to them, "Do you know what I've done for you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you speak correctly, because I am. If I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you too must wash each other's feet. I have given you an example. Just as I have done, you must also do. I assure you, servants aren't greater than their master, nor are those who were sent greater than the one who sent them. Since you know these things, you will be happy if you do them." Listen to the water being poured into the empty basin. Here's the sound changes as the water fills. As the water ends. The water and the basin are common realities in the life of Jesus. They are in every single household. They are one of the first forms of welcome to guests as they enter a home. While their presence is expected, the ones who are meant to utilize the basin and the water, the ones who are supposed to use them, are ones who are overlooked, ignored, unnoticed. Then there is insult, shame, and anger if their job isn't being done. If a host doesn't have somebody to wash the feet of another. Consider then that night that the disciples and Jesus experienced 2 foot washings. When the disciples entered that night, there would have been somebody who would have washed their feet. For Jesus to do it again would have been equally as confusing and baffling in that time. Makes the words of Simon Peter perhaps a bit more understandable. This very common symbol in the day of Jesus is transformed. This is no longer just a basin with water in it. This is water that moves with the slightest motion, where the warmth of it can be felt even through the vessel that holds it. As Jesus assumed the role of one who is overlooked and ignored and unnoticed, the servant, he transforms what people should focus on. Consider then what it means whenever your water, your feet, and your hands are added to a basin. Consider can be transformed not only in serving someone, but in allowing you to brethren have taken on this idea of servant leadership based so much on this act, this night. And we like to serve, we like doing for others, and that's wonderful. But don't miss when Peter resisted being served. We are so eager to help others and so slow. Tonight, then, I ask you to be transformed. Remembering what it feels like to serve as well as to be served. Peter couldn't have understood that night. Jesus even tells him, you're not going to understand. You don't understand what I'm doing. If you have any transformation from this evening, please know that it's not going to be a one-time thing and that's it. It's like a Rubik's Cube of change. Always in motion till you get it right. Trying different combinations, turning this way or that way. Foot washing then is an act of service that frankly is also uncomfortable. Reverend Anna Strickland, Sanctified Art, writes, foot washing is uncomfortable for many people. Just as Peter was uncomfortable with Jesus washing his feet, we invite you to lean into this discomfort around it, around vulnerability, as we wash one another's feet. That's the heart of it. Right there, that's the heart of it. So often we don't like to be served because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to be open to others. We're afraid to, quote, air our dirty laundry. And why is that? Is it because in other times when we've gone to others for support, they've used it against us? Or have we done that too? Somebody came to us for support, we used that against them. This foot washing act is not easy to do. I don't just mean the kneeling down, which as I get older becomes increasingly more difficult. Yes, I know I'm young. Someday it'll be even harder. Perhaps impossible. And if that's the case, if it's literally physically impossible for me to kneel down, does that mean I'm absolved? Does that mean that I no longer have to? No. No, it means you find another way to serve. And that's why this evening as well, too, we have hand washing available. Maybe it is incredibly difficult to kneel to wash the foot of another person. Yes, service is difficult, and being served is difficult. But unless we do that for one another, we can have no part of one another. The way of Jesus would be and will be way to seek the power of this world and instead seek ways that bring peace and healing. Not a peace through fear, anger, and might, but a peace through love, grace, and mercy. Sisters and brothers, As you prepare to wash the foot or hands of another, I invite you to do two things. Shake off the fear of vulnerability. That is hard. I know it is. Please do it. And second, allow another person to serve you so that you may in turn serve them. A few instructions before I invite you to participate in the act of foot or hand washing. You are invited to do so. We ask that the men come up to this spot here. Women, we ask that you go over here into the parlor for foot washing. If you find that that is not a reality, if you can't go to either one of those stations, we understand. Over there is hand washing as well too. You're invited to participate in that. After you are done with that part, you may then if you need hand sanitizer, we've provided it over there. There will be some light music playing in the background as well too, just to help kind of set ambiance. As you return to the table, feel free to engage in conversation. If you choose to not participate in foot washing or hand washing, that is understandable and we respect that. I invite you then to contemplate faithfully where God may be calling you to serve and to be served. Sisters and brothers, let us now serve one another. May I wash your feet?
Warm.
Mm-hmm. Blessings to you. We'll go over there to Randy then. Mm-hmm. Hmm? Mm. I'm guessing we'll survive. I got big feet. That's what happens. What works for you? What works well for you here?
Oh, water.
Okay.
Thought about this time of year, you know, and what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Disciples' minds.
Mm-hmm.
These events unfold, you know. Think of it, man. Basically, you're following this man, and everything is just flipped on you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You got soldiers showing up at your house, in the garden, following you around, searching for you, asking everybody around you, hey, you know where this Jew is? Scary thought, man.
You have a lot of acreage there to wipe, sorry.
Can't get a hard top.
Yeah.
Kind of work.
Bless his brother.
God bless you.
Randy, do you want to get Sean then? Sean, if you'd like your feet washed, Randy can get you. In fact, I'll trade spots so you can just slide over. Don't worry about it, brother. Don't worry about it. Hold off on eating. Hey, hold up. Okay. Correct. Don't get drunk on Jesus. Well, in some churches, it's not grape juice, it's actually wine. And that has been the tradition because, you know, Jesus blessed the wine, so.
I just like want the bread.
Okay. I get that. That's not the focus of tonight.
I know it's the focus.
Mm-hmm. So it's an exercise of will for you.
It's an exercise of will, and it's also an exercise of patience. As I understand this event overview, yes, I understand that. But I really, in the politest way, would say, don't want to be here at this moment.
Where would you rather be? Sitting at home doing nothing?
Staying at home watching a movie with Mary.
You wouldn't be. You'd be back in the office playing games. So. What are you doing, bub?
I just want to stand up.
Okay. Love you, bud.
Sorry, I was really happy when I got here, but then I was really to be irritating.
It's okay, bud. Nobody's mad at you. Okay?
It's just one of those things, you know.
Buddy, it's okay. It's okay. Come here. It's okay. Let's go have a seat. We're going to be starting back up here in just a couple minutes, okay?
How long does this last again?
We're past the halfway mark.
Sorry.
It's okay. Go have a seat, please. As we have gathered back together in this time and in this space to continue our worship and consider the transformative nature of what foot washing has been, I invite us now to transition towards the fellowship meal and to join in our second song for this evening. You'll find it printed in your bulletin, "Let us break bread together." So when Shirley gets there, we'll let her start whenever she's ready, and you're good. You're ready. Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, O Lord, have mercy on me. Let us drink wine together on our knees. Let us drink wine together on our knees. When I fall on my knees, my face rising sun, O Lord, have mercy on me. Let us praise God together on our knees. Let us praise God together on our knees. Oh, and I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun. Oh, Lord, have mercy on me. John chapter 13, verses 31 through 35. Again, from the Common English Bible. When Judas was gone, Jesus said to him, "Now the human one has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify the human one in himself, and will glorify him immediately. Little children, I'm with you for a little while longer. You will look for me, but just as I told the Jewish leaders, I also tell you now, where I'm going, you can't come. I give you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. So you also must love each other. This is how everyone will know that you are my children, when you love each other." There were fishermen, tax collectors, doctors, men, women, faithful, fearful, and traitors that night sitting at the meal with Jesus. Jesus, being the Son of God, knowing the hearts of the people there, provided this commandment: love one another as I have loved you. This phrase would prove to be a key identity builder, but at that time, it may have fallen a little flat. The table was too varied, too many perspectives, too many ideas for those closest to Jesus to hear in their soul what his words meant. Jesus was opening up the table for any and for all. He was opening up the table for the high and respected, to the low and the ignored. He was opening the table for the brave and the fearful. He was opening the table for the loyal and the traitors. He was opening the table to all, no matter what, no matter who, no matter where. And then he said, do that in love. What does it mean to eat with those that may be similar to you? What does it mean to eat with those who are different than you? What does eating with one another have to do with the Lord's table? It means we intentionally set aside the things that the world tries to divide us for, and instead choose to be